I do decelerate a lot in my backstroke entry, which is not good for long course backstroke. So going out with my arms wider and being more connected will help me get into my catch more efficiently and more quicker. And that will basically help me be able to swim faster in long course.
Welcome to Social Kick. I'm Brian Lundquist. We got a modified crew. No Luke, he's traveling, but we got Dr. John Mullen and an extra here with two guys joining us from the Cal Berkeley. Golden Bears, Destin Lasco, Hugo Gonzalez. What's up, guys?
Thank you for having us today.
All right, so we always pull our audience on Instagram before, so we got a little mashup of some questions to get us started, both intro from us and from the audience. First, Hugo, as a fresh Cal graduate, what is the state capital of California?
I don't think I can answer that question yet.
Help him out, Destin. Help him out.
Sacramento?
There we go. All right. Destin, what does GPT stand for in Chat GPT?
Oh my goodness. Generated, I don't know. I don't know GPT, actually. Hugo, do you know? Help me out.
No, I've used it. I've used it before.
Me too. I've used it too.
Everybody's heard of it, so shame on all of us. Chat GPT is generative pre-trained transformer.
My roommate would know that.
Speaking of roommates or teammates anyway, this one's from the audience and your pal Bella Riley. Favorite part about Wednesday morning backstroke group, Destin?
It would have to be just Matt's practices because he's just really intuitive with his work and how to break down the stroke. So I think that's what I look forward to the most. And so definitely Matt's just practices in general are really cool. Shout out to Bella.
Hugo, have you ever met someone who can whistle louder than Dave Durden?
No. Here, I think Dave Durden gets the top.
All right. And from friend of the pod, Daniel Carr, this one's for either of you, and I'm sure there's a backstory here. What is the most memorable moment at OTC?
Oh, man.
There's so many.
There's so many. What part, like practices or like, that's the thing, like the most memorable part about OTC, at least for me this time around, was seeing Hugo get back into it. Like, Hugo, remember when you did like you did 4 ones best average, like one of each suited off the block and then a 200 IM all out?
Yeah.
And like you like literally killed it, and like you're like, yeah, I just got back like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, dude, I've been training for like months, and you could just pull this off. So like, I think that was my most memorable moment, seeing Hugo get back into it, but embracing everything. So that was like my favorite moment at OTC.
Is that the way it always is with Hugo, that he's flexing on you like that?
Hugo is he's just such a hard worker, and he has it both. He has the talent and the work ethic. So when it comes together as one, like that's why Hugo is where he is today.
Hugo, what about you? What's your OTC story?
Mine doesn't really have to be so much about swimming. I feel like for me, OTC is a place where we can really get to know each other because, we get to spend 21 days living together all the time, which is not like here you go to the swimming pool, you go to classes, you get back home. But there, obviously there's no classes going on, but I feel like every single moment that you're struggling with anything, you're going to have teammates around. Even like when you want time off, you have a teammate too, because 2-bedroom room. So there's always somebody to talk to. There's always somebody to get a different perspective. And, especially when we have the days off, we used to have, especially when Dana Carr was on the team, we used to have this tradition of going to his house and meeting his family and just having a good time, disconnect from all the routine that we usually have regarding swimming. I think those times that we got to spend together, like getting to know each other outside of the swimming pool, outside of classes, were the most memorable ones.
On that note, Hugo, I mean, I know that, well, actually, I'm curious if you're going to stick around and train and we can talk about that. But having just finished up with your eligibility and graduated, what are you going to miss most about being around this squad?
It's probably going to be the meets. I mean, even if I turn as a pro, like we always train together. We do the same practices. The only thing that changes is our approach or our taper schedule compared to like what meets we want to race fast or not. But our program is the most the dual meets, conference meets, especially NCs. There's really no other need where you can really convert swimming into a team sport, and that's what I feel like it makes it so easy to get back into the team. Doesn't matter if you've been, well, if I've been in Spain for the last whole semester, because once you get back, you see all your teammates working for the same goal, and that's what pushes you to make yourself better, make your teammates better. So it's probably going to be all the dual meets, even though, you know how much they hurt, but there's still such a team sport where you cannot find it anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, and I'd say this with like the ultimate respect, because it was so much fun watching you, especially all of the time, as I told you before we got on, but like stomp on that NCAA record, the 4 IM last year, and then, but that could not have been a fun dual meet swim to have Leon break it right next to you, right?
No, it was not. I mean, that dual meet that Leon broke my record. I wasn't even thinking about a record. I was just I was just focused on trying to get better, trying to get ready for NCs. I mean, I knew that we are gonna be fast because they let us know before. But yeah, it's never fun to get a lap in a race. But that was not our focus, so it was fine. Totally. We're just thinking about the end of March, and that's what we prepare for.
Yeah, I think you guys have like the ultimate. You have the ultimate just confidence to rock beards at conference meets, and just it takes a lot to have the style of kind of meet preparation and intro that that you guys do and that the program does. And I just think that's like one of the coolest things, to just be able to handle any roadblocks or speed bumps in the middle of the season, and just be like, hey, well, it's all intrinsic. And you guys, we've even been talking about having this conversation for a while. You're like, yeah, the focus is on NCAAs, and I have so much respect for that, and where your heads are and where your confidence is just like, hey, look, this is the focus. We're continuing to charge on the path. We trust the plan. Every Cal Bear that we've talked to has the ultimate trust for Dave Durden. I did. He recruited me to swim in college. And, and I just think that's so cool that when you show up, you believe in the plan, and then, you back it up. It's like, okay, everyone else can do nothing but just clap for that and that approach. So I don't know. That's pretty cool to see, you guys.
Thank you.
And Dustin, I think it was at Pac-12, you said, hey, sorry, we're not talking till after NCs, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah. No, it's just that time for me, at least, just talking from my perspective, it's pretty stressful with, gearing up for championship season, especially with like school and swimming. And especially like Dave expects like a lot from like the team, especially me as well. Like with my lineup, he put me in every single relay and every single individual that he could. And like you said, Brian, full beard and everything. So I knew I wasn't going to go into that meet like full charge at all. And I knew I had to be in the right mind space and locked in, because we knew that ASU was just going to be phenomenal just from like the dual meet and what they were putting up times and everything. So like you said, John, like you're just putting on the blinders and just focusing on where you're at the point in the season. And, everything boils down to March. And that's what I was just really focused on, was just scoring as many points for my team as possible in March. And it came to fruition. And now, like, you guys are going to get the behind the scenes of, what it took to get there.
So what did it take to get there?
I think going back, getting second at Pac-12s was, I think, one of the best things that happened to us, because we were good. I mean, we had a really solid team. We had Lucas come in from Belgium. He was a great addition. And us getting second at Pac-12s really prepared us for NCs, because it wasn't just ASU ASU that was firing at the meet. It was Florida, it was Texas, it was Indiana. There were so many people that were just in the mix at some point in the meet. And for us, just, coming up short a little bit, it was like, all right, we know how to bounce back and, adapt and overcome. And I can just give you a prime example of that was the 4 medley relay, right? We got 5th. And, we were getting a little emotional after the race. And I was just telling like my teammates, like, it's not over till it's over. Right. So the next day, me and Hugo going 1-2 and the 2 back, just basically stamped that. We're like, all right, it's over. It's time to swim free and it's time to have fun. And it just all goes back. And what it took was getting second at Pac-12s. And I look at that as the turning point of what pushed us to, win NCs.
So if you script this next year, Destin, are you going to plan on getting second at Pac-12s again? Because
we'll see, because it's Olympic year next year, right? So it's all part of the plan now to start prepping for. I know I don't want to think too far in the future, but trials is going to be the main focus. So Pac-12s is just going to be. I don't even know what's going to be next year, but so we'll see.
Yeah, I always think about, that many years ago, I don't remember if we talked to Gary Hall about this, but in 96, they actually moved Olympic trials up. So like basically guys had to choose between NCAAs and Olympic trials. So there are a bunch of guys who just sat out that year. But given that trials, the US always now holds the trials in the middle of the summer instead of like other countries that have it stacked right after NCAAs in April. I wonder, like, do you think it actually does have an impact on preparation through those meets? Like you're saying, well, maybe we train a little bit more through just so that we don't have any kind of a double taper early in the year. And maybe we only prep for NCs. Does it change how much you actually come down for NCs, do you think?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I felt it a lot last year with having world championship trials at Greensboro 3 weeks after NCs. No, that was really tough for me, at least, because I remember being in the ready room at World Championship trials and not even being nervous. Like, I just felt numb because coming off of like Pac-12s, NCs, and then going into that World Championship trials meet, I just felt numb to the excitement of racing that you should have before a race. So it kind of took me off guard a little bit. But, looking forward now, like you're saying, like, I think it's really good having, such a big space between NCs and Olympic trials. And it's really tough. Like I've seen like our teammate, like Sebastian Somerset, like he had to fly to Great Britain to do his championship trials. And it's so tough. I don't know how he does that, but it's like, I give the international guys like a lot of credit for, sticking it out for so long and trying to do well, not only in short course, but long course as well. It's really tough.
Yeah, I feel like one of the hardest things with that transition is not just the swap to the big pool, but also it's just like nowhere near the same hype as NCs. And, Hugo, you're talking about what it's like to have, to be a part of the team. And that'd be such a huge component to the success and the enjoyment out of not only like training and practice, but also these meets. And like a lot of times these international meets, they could be a lot quieter. And like your team section isn't the same. You're not competing for team points. What's the model like in Spain for qualifying, Hugo? What's the model for you doing like world and Olympic qualifying? How's that work?
Yeah, there's usually a national trials by April, so like 2-3 weeks after NCs. They usually on those days every year. So this year I had to skip that just because I wanted to make sure I had a good base of training, especially after NC. So I didn't want to rush it or like risk it. Trying to Spain, it's like I think 15, 16-hour flight. So it will also mess up with the schedule of classes and everything. So I just rather stay here, keep training. And then luckily this year, they the Mare Nostrum meet as a qualifying meet to hit the cats to qualify for Worlds or Olympics next year. So the goal would be just heading back to Spain to compete at Mare Nostrum, hitting the cats that I want to hit my events, and then heading back and keep training here.
Do you think next year, without having to worry about NCs, is a good timing for you with the Olympics and all those competitions coming up?
I think it's going to be interesting. I wouldn't say it's easier because I feel like for me, a big part of my motivation to swim is to race for something bigger than myself. It could be my team, it could be my coaches. There's had to be something other than myself, right? And next year, I feel like that, like the change of going to pro is going to be a very individualized focus, even if I'm training with the guys, because I know like whenever they're going to be tapered for the team meets, I'm going to be having to like think about my own needs, maybe like it's gonna be nice that we still have a pro group. Like Murphy's there, Abby's there, Sean is there, so we have a couple guys, Hunter's there too. So I wouldn't say it's easier, but it's definitely gonna be different. So I'm just hoping that it's gonna give me more time to focus on things that I don't usually have time for, like such as recovery practice or everything else that doesn't involve time in the swimming pool.
I know, obviously, NCs is pretty fresh, so just finishing up there. And Destin, you can hop in here maybe after Hugo. But with the NIL, we've been talking with a lot of college athletes about sponsors and things like that. Have you started to wrap your head around maybe focusing more on sponsors or that type of environment and what you might try to do to, like you said, try to make the longevity more feasible for you?
Yeah, so it's funny that you said that because like I was just talking to our compliance officer, Justin at Cal, and I was like, just getting into it, like I didn't want to dive like too deep, and I was just trying I was basically asking like, hey, what are the rules in California? Because every state has different rules when it comes to NIL. So I was just asking him, okay, like what are the logistics, like what are the rules I have to follow? So when I do reach out to brands from my end, I know like I'm more educated. So, and it makes the negotiating more easier. But at this point, I haven't been really exploring NIL as much as I should be. But maybe in the summer, I'll definitely start, trying to promote myself more, talk to brands, and get my name out there.
Brian, what would your sponsors have been?
Oh. Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was going to ask you, Brian, what would your sponsors have been in college?
Oh man, I don't know.
I can't even imagine thinking back then.
Well, I mean, that's how much nutrition changed. But mostly, I would have thought about like products that I used on a regular basis. Like there were protein bars that I really liked using, stuff like that. And actually, that's where I started first because, I think maybe a lot of swimmers do this now, but the way that I was able to like have a quote pro career as somebody who, I had an American record, but I never made the Olympic team. And I like swam at some of the bigger like short course worlds, but I was never on the A team, but like I was still able to get by. And the way that I was able to get by is I went out on my own and just generated some sponsorships from maybe like lesser known places. One of which was like, I wrote a ton of letters. I just was like relentless at contacting brands. And the whole thought process was like anything that I used. So like protein, supplements,
Budweiser,
training products, definitely Bud Heavy. You remember the days actually they used to sponsor triathletes, and I think they even did some swimming sponsorships for Bud Light. Bud Light needs some help with sponsorships lately. They've been in the news. But yeah, man, I think that was where I started. Just like, what do I use and what do I like already? Go reach out to those brands and at least see if I can get it for free and offset costs. Because if I'm paying for it, I want to stop paying for it. And then if they want to pay me on top of that to do some ambassadorship or whatever, like that's cool. So I don't know. What would that be for you, Destin?
No, that's actually funny you said that. Like supplements are so expensive once you start adding them up. So like I would definitely start there. And then also like I was like also thinking about like suit brands. So like, Tier, Arena, Speedo. I think that would be also like a great avenue to look into. So just starting there, I would love to just partner with either, like you said, a supplement brand just because to offset costs. And then also like, it's also nice to try different suits as well to see like what technology is up to par nowadays, because it's interesting because, a Speedo Valor versus a Mizuno, right? They're two different suits. Mm-hmm. So, and then at Cal, we're sponsored by Speedo, so we're only allowed to wear Speedo during our collegiate season. So now, like, since we're branching off into the summer, I'm really excited to start trying like different suits and seeing what's working for me and what other suit brands are coming up with.
Hugo, how does that work for you as an international athlete? I remember we talked with Maggie McNeil, and she was saying she couldn't really collect some of the NIL because of how the Canadian rules worked with being a U.S. athlete. I know you've done some stuff with like Speedo Spain in the past. How did the NIL work for you, and perhaps how's it looking for you moving forward?
Yeah, kind of same thing. I feel the NCAA rules regarding NIL apply to everyone, your international athletes. So what I was getting was basically equipment, materials. I was getting tech suits, goggles, caps from Speed of Spain. And well, now that I'm graduating, I'm hoping to make that more kind of a deal. Right, it's just getting free equipment, which is what we get here at the college. But yeah, the goal will be just like turn swimming into more like professional, like not just calling myself like a professional swimmer, but actually treating myself, my routine, my sponsors, my daily life as like all around swimming, at least until next year, which is the Olympics. That would be the focus.
So Hugo, maybe, I don't know if I heard it just right. Are you going to stay at Cal and train, or are you going to somewhere else and train?
Well, for now, I just have the option to come back home. I know Bentil is there in Barcelona with a couple of international swimmers and a couple of Spanish swimmers in the national team. So I can always travel back and forth. So I'm right in the middle of conversations with Dave and the coaches back home to figure out what's the best plan to swim fast at the Olympics next year. So that's I'm still deciding that. But for now, this is the place that I trust the most, just because I've been here for 4 years and I've been getting my best results here. So right now I'm just kind of relying on whatever Dave thinks is best to follow that.
Tough life, traveling back and forth from Spain to California.
Yeah, I wish it was closer, but so far, so it's fine.
Yeah. I just mean there, especially the training environments that you've got. There could be uglier places in the world to be having to live and train and bounce around as a pro swimmer. It's a tough life.
Hey, Jersey's up there, right?
Yeah, compared to what Hugo just said, 15-hour flight. Like, I complained about like a 3-hour time change, and Hugo's over here just doing 15-hour flights. So no complaints over here.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I think the cross country time change is a little more difficult even than doing like a bigger total reset, like 8-12-hour time change sometimes is even easier, because it's just like I don't even know why. It's just a little more tolerable.
Yeah, no, Reese and I would always talk about that. Just like we call it like the coast to coast flights. We're just like, we're excited to go home, but like the first like 3 days you're home, you just don't want to do anything, because like you just want to deflate because you're just so tired. So
yeah, and you sleep till 9, and then you feel awful that you slept till 9, and everybody else is like,
up and moving.
They're like on with their day, and you're like, oh, it must be nice.
Well, Reese can't get comfortable on a flight. I figured he'd just be nice and snug in those seats, really sleep well.
Yeah, my man used to either fly first class or get an exit row, so for him to be comfortable.
Good grief, that must be brutal. I'm 6'4", and I'm like right at the limit of being able to travel in an airline seat and have it be comfortable. And I can't imagine what it's like to be Reese and traveling like that. It was rough.
Yeah.
Well, so when we're talking about long course, one of the things John and I had been talking about before this conversation was how different it is for you guys between your short course events and your long course events. And it's so funny to see, like, when you look at short and long and how similar some of your overlap is in the short pool, but in the long pool, like how that may differ in terms of like what your strengths are. And I'm just curious to hear you guys talk about like why it is that maybe you're good at some events in the short course pool, and then in long course, you're better at other events. And I mean, obviously underwaters is a huge component to that, but like, it's not uncommon, let's say, for a lot of people to be good at short course 100 backstroke, but then really like not to have the skill set or not the strength to swim a long course 100 backstroke as well. And maybe like, same thing from a 200 swimmer to swim the 200 short course, but not swim that 200 equivalent long course, and instead just come down to the 100 long course, for example. So I don't know, Hugo, what do you think about that for you with like your event schedule and short course is a little bit different than it is in the long course pool? Why is that?
It's I know you're right. It's very different. Once I think about myself, I feel like I even have like completely different events. Like, until this year, my main 200 of stroke was 200 breaststroke yards. It's an event that I don't even prepare for in long course meters. It's just, it's like super weird. I feel like I'm a different swimmer. I feel like it feels like a different sport almost. Same with the IMs. I feel like 200 IM yards is a little short to me to be able to like develop my full speed. And then the 400 IM is also a little longer for me to feel fully comfortable in yards. It's kind of the same with long course meters. So I think that's part of the reason why it changes so much. Another example is obviously underwater. So I feel like I got really well with handling backstroke in long course, but that doesn't mean that I really have the power to push from the wall to the 50-meter yard or mark and carry that speed through the walls and yards. So I think it really depends on how explosive you are and how your stroke changes, because I don't feel like when you swim, for example, 200 backstroke, the tempo is completely different long course to your short course yards. Same with 200 breaststroke. I feel like I take 4 strokes during my 200 breaststroke. And if you swap that to long course meters, I might be taking like 15, which is almost like triple amount per length. So yeah, it's super tricky. I feel like also if you were to look at myself, I would consider myself as a sprinter mid-D swimmer in long course meters, and then I switched to mid-D to distance in yards. So it's super weird, but it's fun. It's fun to get to experience both pools and play with these strategies, because I feel like every skill that you're gonna master in one of the pools is gonna be useful for the other one.
Destin, I'm curious, what is your best event in long course?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say like I don't like to keep like a cap on anything. I like to just not hold myself to one event. I like to do like, 100 free, 2 back, 100 back, 2 IM. And, Hugo's being humble because he's good at both. But he is. But just from like my perspective, it's just like getting back into it with like long course. Like we train long course all year at Cal. And I think like from my perspective, at least, like why I think I'm better in yards versus like long course is just like what Hugo said. Like it's like your explosiveness off the walls and your underwaters. I think that's like something I'm really, really good at in yards. And one thing that I'm starting to play around with, and I think I'm starting to figure out now in long course, is just like my rhythm, right? Like learning how to like lay off certain muscle groups to have later in a race long course, because it's so much more important, right? So I've been and that's like the great thing, like being at Cal, because like I'm surrounded by like people like Hugo, Bjorn, Lucas, Murph, that are like all really good at long course. So I get to pick their brains on like how they, utilize their muscles efficiently in long course. Cause like, for example, like Hugo, like 4 AM, right? Like you have to be super efficient with each stroke you're going through in yards, every transition. And so that's the reason why like he's so good at the 2 AM long course, is because he has that rhythm and flow that nobody else has, and he discovered that through the 4 AM yards. So like figuring that out for myself it's really fun actually, and it's like always, and I'm learning a lot, and I feel like this summer is going to be really fun for me, because like you said, what event I'm good at is still up in the air, right? So I'm just leaving like no stone unturned at this point, and really going full head on every single race that I swim coming in Indianapolis this summer.
We were just talking to Gretchen Walsh the other day, and she was telling us about how she's experimenting with a bent arm freestyle, given that she in a yards pool always swims with straight arm free, but it's really hard to maintain in a long course pool. And so as she's preparing for the big pool, experimenting with ways to conserve energy to swim efficiently with speed, so that she can finish the full 100. And you're talking about like some of the things that you're learning from like literally the best backstrokers in the world that are part of like the training group that you guys have. Are there some things like race tactic wise that you're dialing in? I mean, you mentioned the like kind of the flow, the tempo, and being more efficient. Are there any things that you're thinking about come like the next Pro Series meet that's the thing that you're testing in each race?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So like I'll say like one thing I'm actually been working on, and Hugo, remember we talked about this, was like entering your arms out wider in backstroke instead of more in, because when you're more in backstroke, like when you start to cross over, like you're not as efficient and you're just utilizing unnecessary energy. And right, like we said, long courses, you're generating your speed through your tempo, not your turns, like as you do in yards. So now I'm experimenting with putting my arms out wider. So I'm getting to my catch better and I'm more connected. So that's something I've been focusing on in practice.
Does that mean that you have a higher stroke rate?
I mean, see, that's the thing, right? Like there's such a fine line between in backstroke or any stroke, at least, like spinning and slipping, right? Like increasing your tempo to the point where you're not actually going faster. So one thing I've been playing around with is like when I've been putting my arms out wider, I've been keeping to a certain stroke count, for example. So like I'll give you like a set we did. Like on Tuesday, we did like some really like hard aerobic work, and we did like a finisher of 4 rounds of 450s on a minute, pace +3, backstroke, and then 1 easy. So 3 at pace, 1 easy. And during that, I was focused on hitting 25 strokes, 30 seconds every single time. And so that basically gets you into your rhythm with the point, like what you're saying, right? You're not increasing tempo, like even though you're coming out to the side more, but you're just getting to your stroke more efficiently and using your core, being more connected. So yeah, that's what basically I've been working on a lot.
What are some of the, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, like Brian mentioned, the 200 back at Cal is obviously a staple event. But the 200 back world record has been, untouched since 2009. What are some things, and Hugo, maybe you could start, do you feel like need to happen for people to start pushing that record again?
I don't feel like there's really anything that there has to change to get swimmers get closer to that work. Or I mean, we've already seen swimmers like plenty of them going 51s already, and like getting the limit of the 100 backstroke that we thought it was like untouchable to limits where we didn't think it was going to be. And I think the last 100 backstroke final was it maybe a World Champs or Tokyo? I think it was the fastest backstroke final ever. And it might not be crazy to see that we could have 51 guys swimming 51s and not even making the podium in the next years. So I don't think there's really anything that has to change. I think it's going to happen eventually. So our goal is just to make sure that we are also developing at the rate that the international swimming is developing. I think the world record is like 159, 151, and Ryan Latti is being the closest one, 152, maybe. Yeah, I think it's going to happen eventually. I mean, obviously we get to see how the best backstrokers in the world, play with their strategy, play with their speed, with like Hunter and Ryan Murphy. So the goal is just to get closer to what they're doing in practice, so we have that confidence heading to the big meets. But it's going to happen eventually. Somebody's going to go 150, and at some point everyone's going to be swimming 53s in the finals.
Do you think the next person to go 151 comes from your training group?
I would like that. I would like that to happen. I mean, it's not crazy because based on how the level in backstroke has been here, it would not be crazy to see that. I mean, we already have like 2 backstroke world record holders training with us. So it would be nice to see a 200 backstroke world record holder be here.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Has that ever happened before? Do you think? That's such a good point. Has there ever been a training group, maybe there has, where you have the world records in all 3 distances per stroke training together and have them all 3 be different people?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, not just being one person, right? Having variety in the combination.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I don't know. Hugo, do you see, that's the thing. Like we don't even think about it like that, which is like the craziest part, right? Like we just like go to practice and just, train hard and then, have good talks in the locker room and then we're off to class or like, off to do our own thing. And I think that's like the most special part too about our training group is like, we're like super competitive with each other, like in the water, but we just leave it all in the water. And then outside the pool, we talk about different things. Like for example, like me and Ryan today were like talking about like venture capital, like presentations, like, cause he's in a class right now with a bunch of athletes and we're just talking about business, like just not about backstroke or, who's doing what in the world or, times are being posted. It's just like, we come to work, like go hard in the pool and then, unwind and then do it again. And I think that's what keeps us so healthy, honestly, and keeps, everyone, training really hard at Cal.
So what's going on in the world of VC right now?
Oh,
Looking on the backstroke billionaire boys. They got the next BBB right there.
Everything's confidential. I can't tell you.
Give us that Silicon Valley info. Come on now.
Yeah, no, SVB. I can't. SVB is that was
you
really
get to walk
bad.
into
So
practice for social.
yeah, you guys can come.
Insights.
Yeah,
Dude, every time I drive past the First Republic Bank, I'm like, ooh.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool though, and I think that having a lot of things going on outside of the pool or things to keep your mind fresh is good, but it's a fine balance too. I think like you gotta really. That's the tough thing about being a professional athlete or even like an elite college athlete in this day and age is like you have to balance a lot of things, and I think sometimes it's really hard to not over-index in one direction or the other, and I've seen it happen with a lot of people both ways, including myself, where like too many things happen outside of the pool and then it detracted from swimming. But then you can also have the not enough going on outside of the pool because the focus is all about, all my eggs are in the basket about like going toward Olympic trials, and then then it's just too much going on. There's so much pressure, and it's almost like life. That's what life is, and I just think it's difficult to find that balance sometimes. Do you guys feel like you've kind of dialed that in and you are able to kind of hold yourself within the guardrails of what's healthy for you personally and mentally?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I could start this off and then Hugo, you could like finish it, but no, it's definitely like you said, Brian, it is tough, find that fine line between, chasing like two avenues you're really passionate about, whether, academics, and business and then swimming, right? Because it's hard being, good at both, because when you're trying to achieve, world-class athletics and, world-class academics at the same level, it can take a lot out of you. And it's so funny you said that, because like when school's over and I'm in the summer and I just solely focus on swimming and training, like I just get so obsessive and locked in. And I start like thinking about like, oh, I could have done better in this practice, or like I should have like, pushed hard on like these last 100 repeats we should have been doing. And it like eats at your head a little bit, and then that can like affect your confidence. And that's like something I'm still trying to find. Like, I think it's like a never ending process to find that fine line between what you're passionate about outside the pool and in the pool. Because when you're trying to like achieve aspirations of, making an Olympic team, making a world's team, it takes that obsession of doing what people aren't willing to do, like in practice, and pushing yourself every day. And then also like trying to uphold yourself like in the classroom. And it's tough sometimes finding that fine line. And I wish I could give you an answer to that. And honestly, I still haven't found that yet. So,
well, how's that going to shape what you do this summer?
That's a good question, because I'm actually like thinking about doing like a light internship this summer for a small private equity firm in New York City. So, and the CFO is actually really understanding, and he's like, we'll work around your schedule and we'll, accommodate for your training and, make sure you're achieving all your endeavors in the pool and then also in the internship as well. How's
that going to affect your beard?
And, as long as they show up in a button up, I think I'll be fine, but, we'll see. I might have to start shaving now.
I don't know, man. That's going to mess with your swimming, though, if you're shaving mid-season.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll make that much of a difference.
Wearing suits to work, wearing suits to dual meets. It's a slippery slope, man.
It is.
Hugo, where's your mustache?
It's gone, yeah. I mean, I don't think I shave. I don't even like shaving now for NCAAs or anything. But the face is different. The face doesn't affect swimming. It's just the looks.
What do you think about these guys that go to big meets and don't shave? Like, don't shave their face?
It really depends on who it is. If it is Destin, I know he's going to be swimming fast. Doesn't matter if he's shave or not. But no, it's cool. It's cool to see people pushing themselves without shaving. I mean, I feel like at this point, we're seeing it with ASU. I'm not sure if they shave or not, but I didn't see much hair on them. But I feel like everybody's free to do whatever they want regarding swimming. But it's always cool to see somebody swimming fast with hair. And, I think the last image of somebody swimming really fast with a mustache was Tamas Shekon breaking the 100 backstroke world record So it's, you know, you can swim fast anytime. It doesn't really matter how much hair you have, unless you're like a bear.
You think he could have been 100th faster with no mustache?
What? Say that again?
Do you think he could have been 1/100th faster if he shaved the mustache?
You know, maybe not. Maybe have a placebo effect on feeling fast with a mustache. You don't know.
What do you think is like the ultimate flex on your competitors? Is that it? Just to like set a world record where you're like, nah, I didn't even suit up for this, or I didn't even fully shave for this. Or the one that always gets me is when like people talk about how I'm not rested for this, or we didn't taper for this, but it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but you're still
day rest.
So
didn't taper, 12-day rest.
That's the mind game that so many swimmers play. What do you think's like the most invoking fear in their competitors thing that somebody can do?
Oh no, I think no, Hugo, you got it.
No, go ahead.
No, I think the worst thing is like when you see somebody like post an insane time in prelims and they're not even breathing hard. That's the ultimate flex. When they're just out of the water and not even breathing hard. That's when you know. Quick. That's when you know they're firing. That's when you know. I think that's the biggest flex, because like you don't even need to say anything. It's just like you get out and like, I don't know. Let's say like somebody posts like a 155 2 back and not even breathing hard. You know they're gonna be firing later in the finals. So I think that's the ultimate flex, honestly.
Okay, be honest. Have you ever had a morning swim like that where you knew that you were quick and you wanted to give the impression to everyone else that it was easy? So you touch the wall and then you just immediately jump right out and try to walk as smoothly as you can.
I'll admit I've done that before, but I think the one race I think I actually like successfully did it well was 2 back prelims at NC's in Minneapolis. Like that 136 flowed really well, and you know, just coming off like the race schedule that I had that meet and still putting up that time in the prelim, I was like, you know, I think tonight will be good and it'll be a fun race. So I think that was like the one time, but it's so rare for that to happen. Like when you just can get out of a pool, especially after 2 back, and you're just like, oh, you know, I'm good.
But isn't the opposite the worst? Have you ever had those where you finish prelims and you're like, oh, that didn't feel bad, and then at night you go slower and you're like dying and you're like, what the hell just happened? This morning felt so smooth.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to go faster, and then I'm hurting. I put all my effort in and didn't get there.
Yeah, see, isn't that crazy about like swimming, like the sport? It's just like you could have like one thing go for you so well in like one race, and then you come back a couple hours later and then it just, you know, doesn't come the way you want it to come. So
yeah, that's happening. Yeah. And let me remind you, Destin, that was not even the only race that you did that at NCAAs. I think, when was the last race that we had? Was it 2 a.m. that we swam together or something?
Oh,
we started talking as soon as we finished.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
no, and then you're like, oh, let's be better tonight. And like, I was like, yeah, let's go. Then I just go like 140. Then you went 138. That was so funny, actually. You reminded me of that. It was Pac-12s. We were talking to each other after, just like as soon as he finished.
Yeah, that's like Dave's going to be mad because we were laughing instead of breathing heavily.
Yeah. That was a good one.
How important? So this reminds me, one of the things that I'm a terrible napper, and my best evening swims came when I got a good nap. But because I was a bad napper, I was a pretty good prelim swimmer. And then a lot of times, like I would go about the same time at night, but I had a tough time, like unless it was a relay swim or something, it got super hyped. It was hard for me to back it up. And I chalked a lot of that up to just like whether or not I had a good nap. Are there any things for you guys that help you swim fast at night, like the triggers or behaviors?
Well, personally for me, I like to like save all the cards for the finals. So let's say like if I usually get a coffee in the morning, I usually don't get anything. Like try to do my best performance without any other resources that I would normally use. Mm-hmm. And then when I head into the finals, if I know that I can get a good nap, if I know I can get a coffee, if I know I can get like, a good wake up swim, a good warm up, and maybe like an extra 25 fast to get my hurry up or something different that I didn't do in the morning. That's usually what brings my confidence up heading to finals. So I know that it doesn't matter what I did this morning. I have done things better at the night to swim faster.
Hugo, have you ever saved a little bit and had it backfire on you with the 9th place though? And I feel like Nathan Adrian, for example, was, in my opinion, the master in his era of getting 8th place in the morning, or getting just enough, 6th or 7th or 8th, or doing the right thing in prelims to get into the semifinal. It's a real art when you get to a certain level to be able to have the talent and the ability to do enough to get by, but not expend so much energy that you're sacrificing your semifinal or your final swim. So, but has that ever come back to bite you, Hugo?
Yeah, I mean, every morning swimming before I am. I feel like that's the hardest part of the sport of this swimming is that I feel like if you just want to score points, sometimes it's kind of easy to plan your strategy because it's just waking up and do your best performance in the morning, and then getting that spot in the final to score points. But once you're past that point, once you're trying to win races or get top places at finals, you're also trying to not overwork the mornings because they're not gonna give you any advantage. It doesn't matter if you're racing in lane 3, lane 5, lane 6. If you have a spot, you can race for to win. And that's what I feel like at that time that I got 9th place. It was half overconfidence of knowing that I could. I was fighting to win, not just to make the final. And also not using all the resources that I had to be able to have maybe not the best time at that time, but closer to that.
Yeah, Hubie, coach was telling us that Bob told him not to have there's not a European morning in the 4 a.m. this year at NCs. Has Dave or any of your coaches ever told you that, Hugo?
They haven't. No, it's the first time I'm hearing this.
I could add on that to do. I remember at Invite this year at Minnesota, I got 9th in the 2 back after prelims, and I cruised it too hard. So it's just it goes back to bite you sometime. But I think at the end of the day, what really gives you confidence at meets is knowing your body, knowing what you need at that certain time of the period, because that's what's so tricky about, tapering and resting is your body's different every year and your body has different needs. So for example, the 200 backstroke before the 135 at Minnesota, I only warmed up an 800 before the 2 back, because at that point, my body was just so fired and ready to go by the time I was, the 4th day at the meet, where knowing your body and what it needs really gives you that confidence behind the blocks.
Well, Gabe Jett told us, Scott, he just needed a pile of caffeine pills for that last day of NCAA. So hopefully you guys can find that balance for you. But Gabe told us all types of stuff. Let's be honest.
Gabe is one of the most confident and actually not one of the most humble people I've ever met.
The humblest there.
The humblest.
He was most humble.
You guys believe that he went 100 in Durden's car, his Tesla? That's what he told us. You believe the story?
Oh, I am not going to admit to that because I don't want Durden texting me after this podcast after he sees it. So that's for between him and Dave to figure out.
Hey, he already said it on our show that he went over 100 miles an hour in that Tesla.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, busted. All right. So what are you guys most looking forward to this summer? I mean, what are the goals? What are you expecting for this summer? Maybe Hugo, you go first.
Yeah, for me, I'm not really thinking about any specific times or any specific meet. I just want to be able to have the same kind of performance that I have in short course yards, or that I had in short course yards a couple of months ago into the long course pool. I feel the closest examples that I can think of are the IMers like Leon and Foster. They've just been so smooth at transition, that speed and their way to approach swimming into the long course pool, that my goal is just to be able to join them and feel comfortable in all the strokes and all distances, because I feel like it doesn't matter how not in shape I was. I was always able to pull myself back and get ready for NCs this last 4 years. And I haven't been really able to do that in long course meters, also because, we're talking before about finding that sweet spot and not having too many things on the plate or too little things on the plate. And now we're thinking about other stuff. I'm not just thinking about swimming. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, is just finding that sweet spot towards the summer where there's not really more school, there's not really more things going on, but you also don't want to be obsessed about it. So that's what I'm looking forward to right now.
Do you set specific goal times?
Yes and no. I wouldn't say they're goal times. I would say that they're they're not objectives. I wouldn't feel disappointed if I didn't get them, but I would definitely like to. I don't have times that I would like to achieve before I retire.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
Fair enough. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Destin? What's on your horizon for the summer besides this shave down internship?
Yeah, for me at least, is just world trials for sure in Indianapolis. And going back to what Hugo said, I think the thing I'm looking forward to the most for me is swimming up to the expectations I know I can do in long course. And just chasing that. I think that's the best thing, because forget about times, forget about expectations. I know, like, if I can swim the way I do yards and translate to long course, everything will take care of itself. So for me this summer, I'm just looking forward to get better at long course. That's plain and simple.
Yeah, fair enough. Go ahead.
You mentioned it's kind of technically the backstroke and maybe how you're trying to adjust that for more long course. What else do you think has been maybe holding you back from having that yard success transfer into long course?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, it's at least just tempo and getting into my stroke quicker, because I do decelerate a lot in my backstroke entry, which is not good for long course backstroke. So going out with my arms wider and being more connected will help me get into my catch more efficiently and more quicker. And that will basically help me be able to swim faster in long course. And it's not just that too. Like, I've been experimenting with like freestyle as well, just getting into my breaths quicker and setting my catch with a higher elbow. So it's all a bunch of, and that's what I love about long courses, because me and Hugo talk about this all the time. It's about being as efficient as possible and exerting the least amount of energy. So just playing around with all that stuff really keeps my love for the sport alive, because I'm learning something every day.
And with you guys, like we talked about, the event versatility has got to keep it fun too. I mean, Destin, 100 free long course, some might say is your like best long course event. So, and Hugo, like you mentioned, 200 breast yards, not even something you focus on. So that must kind of keep it interesting for both of you guys, having such versatility and things that you can always find something new to focus on.
Yeah.
Dude, Destin, I feel like you'd rip 100 free long course. I'm excited to watch that event.
Yeah, I'm excited too. After that 129 I saw, I was like, 100 free is looking a little fun now.
No, for sure.
It definitely
hurts.
It hurts less than 100 backstroke long course for sure. You can quote me on that. 100 back long course hurts so much compared to 100 free.
Hugo,
do you agree with that?
Yeah, so much, but. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like backstroke for me, I don't even have to warm it up. Like, during practices, there's usually like scoring drills, and I always make sure that I hit some fly drills and breaststroke kick and a little like a freestyle swim in it. But I feel like backstroke is just natural. Like, it just comes with it. So no, Destin, I disagree with you so much.
Oh my! I don't know. We were talking about this morning. Remember, we're doing the 150s backstroke pull, and then we're like, dude, this is so hard.
Oh yeah,
like,
I feel like that.
Yeah, I guess.
I just think it's so funny how guys who swim such similar times as you guys do in certain events can have such a different perspective too when you talk about how it differs in a long course pull or whatever. It's just it'll endlessly be that way. So it's always fun to just be able to, that's like the environment that you guys are in is so cool to be able to have such different skill sets in the same training group at such an elite level, to be able to pick their brains and see firsthand what everybody's doing, what Murph's doing, what Hunter's doing. And like, you know, and they learned with Pebley there before. And there's just like, there's so many skill sets there that, yeah, I can see why Hugo, you're like, hey, I'm in a good spot because I train well here and I get the best of all. If I go to Spain, some good guidance too. But like, man, just infuse your brains with, you know, what you see and observe the masters of their craft do on a daily basis. That's, you know, I have to say, I mean, I'm sure you guys will both go on to do really cool, fun things in your lives, and swimming is not the only thing in life for sure. Right now it's a big thing, but like, also, how many times in your life are you going to develop mastery, like true mastery in a skill? And you guys are in it right now where you're like, you've achieved mastery in something. And that's a rare thing to be able to do. Maybe you won't replicate it again in life at this level. I don't know, you know, and that's soak it in, man. That's awesome. Happy for you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Yeah.
Okay. A few rapid fire questions and then we'll let you go. Hugo, what is the hardest race in swimming?
4 a.m., no doubt.
Destin, hardest race.
4 a.m. 4 a.m.
All right, Destin, Olympic gold or world record?
Olympic gold.
Hugo?
Olympic gold.
Hugo, do you pee in the pool?
No.
Liar. Destin, do you pee in the pool? Definitely. All right, Destin, what's one event that you know you'd be good at, but you never actually get a chance to swim shaved and tapered?
Oh, good question. I would say 2 free because it's the same day as 2 back.
Okay.
So yeah, I never had the opportunity to swim 2 free long course.
Yeah. What about you, Hugo?
That we never had, we never will have.
What's one event that you like never really get to race when you're fully shaved and tapered because it's
right.
Other events you're better at other events, but you know you'd be good at that event. You just always have to say no to it.
2 back or 100 fly. 2 back is always with the 2 a.m. And 100 fly, I never done it. But I remember doing like 52.0 and non-taper me.
Admission.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right. Maybe we just need to change the event order. Speaking of event orders, NCAAs, if you could add an event to NCAAs and take one away, you have to trade one. Which event would you add and which event would you take away, Destin?
Ooh, you know what? I really hate the 3-1s triple, like doing the 100 back prelims, 100 back finals, and 100 back in the 4 medley. It hurts so much. So I would say swap that out, like swap the 4 medley for something else. I would say switch that around with another event.
But you got to delete it though. So like that means the 4 medley is not an event at the meeting.
Oh.
All right, swap it for the 800 medley that day. You asked for it, Dustin. Your wish is our command. You're welcome.
You get your extra 200 free. There you go. Have something.
Yeah. But
What about
yeah,
you? Hugo? Hugo, what do you think? What would you add? What would you take away?
Well, I've already had my best performance in 4 a.m. We've already seen the new NCAA record going to off limits, so we can get rid of that one. And I'll be 300 IM. I feel like that would be a sweet distance spot for like people that can only, like people are just like, there's swimmers that swim to IM that are not really IMers. It's just have good speed. And there's swimmers that swim for IM because they're distance swimmers. I will have it through IM to see like true IMers what they can do.
Ooh, 3 IM.
That's a good one. That's a good one, Hugo.
I would rather watch a 3 IM than a 4 IM, I think, to be honest. That'd be cool. I would like that. I think the most common one is 100 IM. I hear people say, why is the 100 IM not an NCAA event? And I think it should be.
Yeah. And there was other sprinters that are not IMers.
That would be a crazy event to watch.
Yeah.
Just so much like speed and power in just in one race, just all the transitions. It would be really fun. The 100 IM would be fun to watch.
So wait, if the 100 IM was an event at NC's this year, who do you think would have won it?
Ooh, Leon.
You think?
Leon, yes, for sure.
It's hard to say if you go out in 44 and a 2 IM, that it's not going to be you. So yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, so at the women's meet, we saw Kate Douglas win the. Wait, did she win? She didn't win the 50 free, but she's has the skill set to do the 50 free. She obviously won it last year, and then NCAA record of the 200 breast. such a weird combo of events. And I'm thinking, if you look at your team, can you guys imagine Bjorn or Jack Alexi doing the 200 breaststroke? And if so, what would they go?
I mean, I'm sure if we suggested that to Bjorn, he would say that he could do it.
I hope Bjorn could break 2 minutes.
All right.
And Hugo, have you ever seen Jack do breaststroke in practice?
I've never seen it. It's not a thing. Does it exist?
Yeah.
God, that would be funny to watch.
Yeah.
The next time you guys do social kick, then you got to ask that question and get this thing going. Maybe we get it on film so we can see these guys doing breaststroke in practice.
Oh, that would be hilarious to watch.
I love it. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. It's good to chat with you, and looking forward to seeing what you do this summer and, further in your career. So appreciate you, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian and Dr. John. As we always say, go Bears.
Yeah. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, guys.
All right. That's it for this episode of Social Kick. We'll see you next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it. And be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment. And subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick. And you can find all of our content on our website,